Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs have a superstar running back on the roster, and it's Branson Robinson, true freshman last year in a backup role, really showed what he is capable of. And I don't want to take anything away from Kendall Milton, Daijun Edwards, the two leading returning rushers for Georgia from last season, but Branson Robinson is special. And when he ran the football last year, he showed flashes of Nick Chubb, big physical runner, about 5'10", 220 pounds, breaks tackles consistently. Ask Auburn how good Branson Robinson is. Ask TCU how good Branson Robinson is. I know that they're going to miss Kenny McIntosh's ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. They're going to have to get that productivity from somewhere, right? I think that's going to be Daijun Edwards catching the ball, but Branson Robinson only rushed 68 times last year. In the regular season, that's not including the last, no, that's the whole year. 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, including 2 touchdowns against TCU. This guy has the ability to be one of the best running backs in college football. Now, we're still going to see a lot of Kendall Milton. His 4th year, came in with Daijun Edwards right in that 2020 class. Those two are still going to get the majority of the carries next year because they've earned it. But Branson Robinson, should see more carries come his way next year than 68. When he runs the football, you know there's something special about him. It took a little bit of time for Kendall Milton to come into his own and look like the running back that they recruited out of California. Struggled to hold on to the ball a little bit early on in his career. Daijun Edwards has, flashes here and there, that potential to play at the next level, but there's nothing really special about Daijun Edwards. He does his job. He's got good vision, burst. He can break tackles, and he can catch out of the backfield. I think they're going to use him more in that way. But Branson Robinson, I think, has the highest ceiling on this roster. Again, kind of buried on the depth chart last year was number 4 behind those two and Kenny McIntosh. Of course, they used Stetson Bennett a lot in the running game as well. This year, I think he's going to push for that number 2 role. And if Kendall, for some reason gets a little banged up here and there, if something's wrong with Daijun Edwards, he's not 100%. Branson Robinson is a guy who I think they can lean on next year. He is a tough physical runner and the closest running back we've seen come through Athens since Nick Chubb. Coming out of high school, was injured a lot of his senior year. I spoke with his high school coach when he signed with Georgia. He says, hey, Branson is going to come into Athens with a chip on his shoulder. He is a big, bruising guy with plenty of speed too. I mean, when he gets through the line of scrimmage and gets to that second level, as we saw against Auburn and TCU, he can get up and go, and he can fly by defenders. He's a little faster than people think, but he is absolutely chiseled. He is all muscle, a physical freak. Del McGee said last year, I think around the spring, that he, could run through a brick wall. That's how tough, strong, and physical he is. And there are a couple questions I have about, Georgia's running back room going into this year. I still think it's one of the best in college football. Don't get me wrong. They don't have the receiving threat, as, James Cook did and Kenny McIntosh did. I don't think they have that type of guy. And there's no speedster on this roster either. All these guys are 200 pounds and more. Kendall Milton's 220. Roger Robinson, the incoming freshman they got out of San Diego, he's 230. Branson Robinson is 220. Daijun Edwards is around 200 pounds. Andrew Paul, running back I'm going to talk about a little later, he was a freshman last year, missed the entire season. He's 220 as well. So you've got a lot of big physical running backs who can break tackles, keep the chains moving, and, show burst when there, is a hole to run through. And there's going to be plenty of holes to run through. It's going to make these running backs look a little faster when these offensive linemen are opening up gaping holes and they're flying through them. So they're more of, it's a room that breaks a lot of tackles. It's tough, big, heavy, physical running backs. So there's no DeAndre Swift. There's no Keith Marshall. There's no Todd Gurley as it relates to speed, right? And that doesn't really matter because they won the national championship last year without, a speedster, elite speed guy. Kenny McIntosh wasn't that. He was, quick and somewhat fast. He wasn't a speedster. So it's not the end of the world that they don't have that type of track speed type of running back. Now, they have one committed in the 24 class, Dwight Phillips out of Pebblebrook High School in Mableton. Track star speed, immediate, one of the fastest guys in the country, and will be their fastest running back in the room when he gets there. But right now, you've got a lot of guys who can, put the offense on their back and, beat down on defenses and dish out some hits, dish out some bruises to opposing linebackers. And They're going to run and just wear down a defense. That's what these running backs are going to do. They're all great in goal line situations, short yardage situation. You get a guy back there, a bowling ball type, who can get yards after contact and fall down for another yard or two. That's what Kendall Milton does. Daijun Edwards does the same thing. And Branson Robinson, if he's not bowling through a tackle, he's carrying a defender an extra yard or two. And I do think he's probably the most overall talented. We'll see if he can, be a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. Only caught one pass for 2 yards last year. I think that was in mop-up duty, but he is a runner that I really liked out of high school. Probably would have been ranked a little higher if it weren't, for his injury. Also, if there's an echo in this room, again, I apologize. My office was down here, moved upstairs, moved back down here, had to make a playroom for my 1-year-old upstairs, so that took away that office. So if there is an echo, I apologize. Still working on it. I promise I will get that fixed. I don't want any echoes in this video, right? I work too hard on these, and I know a lot of y'all appreciate them. So getting back to the running back room, I still think it's going to be the best. Maybe not the best, one of the best in college football. Kendall Milton is turning into, like I said before, that running back, one of the best in the country in that 2020 class. Georgia could have gone anywhere to get those running backs. They got Daijun Edwards from South Georgia, but they went to California because they knew Kendall Milton can play. And let's see, he had 590 yards last year, 8 touchdowns. Daijun Edwards carried the ball a lot more, actually, like 57 times more than Kendall Milton. Daijun Edwards rushed the ball 139 times last year, 771 yards, 5.5 yards a carry, 7 touchdowns. So he is going to get more opportunities to run the football. Kendall Milton only rushed the ball 86 times last year, 590, 8 touchdowns, averaged just under 7 yards a carry. So he's really coming into his own. I think that he's going to be the guy, that's my guess, who leads the team in rushing. Daijun Edwards is going to be right there, but they need Branson Robinson to touch the football, especially late in games when the defense is tired. They don't want to tackle. You bring in a big, physical, 220-pound bowling ball in Branson Robinson, he's going to do the trick, and he's going to bust a big-time play late in games when defenses are tired. That's what he's going to do. He's going to run through you. He's got enough speed to fly by defenders. So I thought he ran better and better as the year went on. 98 yards against Auburn, was outstanding against TCU. Definitely a guy to keep an eye on. And again, I don't expect him to have a Nick Chubb career as far as statistics go and productivity, but I don't think anyone will for a long time. This is a team that wants to share the load between 3 or 4 running backs every year. So it's not like you've got 1 year where it's just Nick Chubb and Sony Michel, or Nick and Sony and a little bit of DeAndre Swift. They want to spread the love out. So it's hard for me to imagine one of these guys going over 1,000 yards this year, which is something that we used to see consistently from Georgia running backs. But Branson Robinson could do that on another team. He's very talented. I think he's going to play in the NFL, and I expect his role to be increased in a big way next year. Andrew Paul, if he's healthy, he's a guy the staff loved and raved about before he got hurt and missed the entire season. He's another guy who runs really well for 220 pounds. He can move, and I think Georgia fans are going to like what they see from him. Roderick Robinson, a legend out of San Diego, one of the better running backs that the San Diego, California area has ever produced. Rushed for like 2,400 yards last year, led them in to a state championship in California. Another just big physical dude, all muscle, who runs pretty well for someone 230. So there's a lot of young talent, but at the end of the day, it's going to be led by the 2 veterans. Kenny Mack is gone. Kendall Milton, Daijun Edwards, 2 guys who have been in the program for a while now. They're going to lead the way, but I'm telling you, Branson Robinson, when he gets the ball, he makes big things happen, and it just looks different. It looks like Nick Chubb reincarnated running the football. Now, I'm sure he doesn't want to be compared to Nick Chubb. He wants to be Branson Robinson and leave his mark on his own, but the style of running, the physical nature, the ability to, break off a big run on any particular play, yards after contact, moving the chains. Branson Robinson does remind me a lot of Nick Chubb, and I think he is an easy candidate for a breakout player on offense this year, even though he's got 2 guys ahead of him. But I love Branson Robinson, always have, and he definitely flashed that big playability when he was able to get the ball last year. I expect him to do a lot more of that, and maybe we'll see some young guys. I do think we'll see the freshmen in garbage time. A lot of games for that. UT Martin, Ball State, Vanderbilt, UAB. I do think a lot of these younger backs, Roger Robinson and Andrew Paul are going to get some carries at some point. But Branson Robinson is going to make it tough for them to keep him on the sidelines for much longer. He is the real deal. Love everything he brings. I think he's going to have a very, very big season in 2023. Guys, thanks for watching this video. Again, I hope there's no echo. I do test before I go, and I don't hear it as much as other people. But if it's there, promise I will continue to fix it. Thanks for watching these videos. We really appreciate it. What do you think Georgia's running back is going to look like? Running back room, what it's going to look like heading into the spring. Let us know. Thanks for watching this video. As always, stay tuned to the next one coming up right now. I'll see you over on Dog Post.